In today's video, we need to talk about Chelsea. Chelsea are into the Club World Cup final where they will play PSG, and that will be a big game, and we will talk about that in more detail later. Chelsea have been very impressive in the Club World Cup. João Pedro has been very impressive in his first start, and I think with Chelsea, there's going to be a lot of money coming in from not only the Club World Cup but from sales. And if you look at Chelsea right now, they need at least one top level winger, maybe two with Madueke going. They need backup for Cucurella because the poor guy's being run into the ground, and in the Champions League, you're going to want to rotate more next season. They need a goalkeeper, let's be honest. And they probably need that long-term Thiago Silva replacement, just a leader at the back. And with the money coming in, it looks like that's what Chelsea want to do. There's Rodrigo rumours, they want a centre-back, they've looked at goalkeepers, but they didn't actually go and do anything for Magnan in the end. But I feel like this is the first time in a while, the last 3 years maybe, where I'm going into the new season a little bit fearful of Chelsea. And before you comment, you're a Man United fan, you should be scared of Burnley, you should be scared of Leeds, you should be scared of Sunderland next season. I know. I mean, I feel like it's not just Man United fans, but I feel like it's just, this is the first time in maybe 3 years going into new Premier League season where I feel a lot of clubs that will fear Chelsea and go, you know what, they finished fourth last season, they're up there. João Pedro's looking the real deal as of yet. Pedro Neto's improving. They've got the best midfield in the Premier League, arguably. And with the money that Chelsea are going to have coming in, they get that centre-back. They get that goalkeeper. They get some backup for Cucurella just for a little bit of depth there. A top winger. I'm talking someone like Rodrigo. And it will be a bit worrying. So I want to talk about Chelsea. I want to talk about everything that's happening in their Club World Cup, their transfer window, what their plans are. They've been into Hato, Gay, talk about Rodrigo, some of the transfer talk. But yeah, I feel like as a rival fan, I look at Chelsea and I think, they're back. They're back on track. I think they're more than capable of winning the Club World Cup. PSG are the favourites, PSG are the obvious favourites. Like, they've battered Inter and they've battered Real Madrid. But I always said the Premier League Cups, even though PSG knocked 3 Premier League clubs out the Champions League to win it, but look at how Aston Villa, Arsenal and Liverpool gave them a much harder game than Inter and Real Madrid did. Look at how, Liverpool, they only beat them on the penalty shootout. And how Liverpool, that was a tough game. Villa almost came back into it. Arsenal won on XG, and Arteta said that the PSG bench thought Arsenal would have better shine. I know, taking the mick out of Arteta. Chelsea are going to give them a game. And look, Chelsea's Club World Cup run, for me, it's impressive. People think it's not impressive. They beat some Brazilian sides, but they're good, well-drilled Brazilian sides. But it's transformational, their Club World Cup run. You might be thinking, what do you mean? Who they beat? I'm talking the amount of money they get for winning these games. The prize money they get is transformational. They're looking at Madueke, 50 plus million they've just got. The Sassi's going to bring in some funds. Nicholas Jackson could be bringing in some funds. And Chelsea are looking to reinvest those funds. They will spend. Whether they're going to bring in a load of kits again, who knows? But they will spend. And I think the first time in 3 years, I'm looking at Chelsea and going, these guys are a danger because they are nowhere near done in the window. And I did a video back in April when Chelsea looked back on track to get Champions League football. And I said Chelsea getting Champions League football is a problem because Chelsea with money, Chelsea winning this club, this World Cup, Chelsea with money, no. So far they've made 80 million from the Club World Cup. They could go and make an extra 35 million if they win. It's 115 million from the Club World Cup. I think it's 115 million the winner gets. Adding into the fact that Arsenal have given them 57 million for Madueke and Kepa. I actually think Madueke is a pretty good player, and I would have kept him if I was a Chelsea fan for depth. But, 52 million for Madueke, you're not going to say no to that. Petrovic, money potentially coming in as well. And look, Chelsea are looking at over 170 million in the bank, potentially. Chelsea are looking at a lot of money being in the bank there, with more sales expected, Nicholas Jackson rumours, Disassi rumours. We're talking about Chelsea potentially having, with a few more sales, over 200 million in the bank to spend. Jackson, Disassi could all bring in funds. And if they win the Club World Cup, they're going to have even more money to spend. And Chelsea will be ready to do action. And this is what worries me about Chelsea, because they finally have a very good team, but they now need to do the final bits. If I look at Manchester United, we haven't even got a very good team. We need like a million, gadillion, trillion signings. We need like 7 or 8 players to improve the team and get up a level. Whereas Chelsea have improved the team, they've got up a level, but they need that striker, which João Pedro could be with Delap's backup. They need that elite level winger, which they will look to do. They need that goalkeeper and they need that centre back, and then they can just look at depth. Because Enzo Casado Palmer is a top three midfield in the world. It is a top three midfield in the world. That's fantastic. Casado for me was arguably the best DM in the league last season with Gravenberch and Tonali. I think they all had really good seasons. You've got Santos and Lavia. That would be really good depth options if Lavia can stay fit. Enzo Fernandez, I think since November, has really shown his quality at Chelsea, his ability to contribute in the final third, whether it's late box runs, scoring goals, whether it's playing a pass that opens up the game and results in a goal being scored, whether it's getting an assist. And then Cole Palmer, I know he dropped off this season, but he is obviously an elite level player. So Chelsea have this fantastic midfield, fantastic depth. Esteval's coming in, who can one be Palmer depth, but also be a future right wing. João Pedro's only one game, or two actually, but he's looking like a genuine number 9 solution already. He's looking like the answer. Nicholas Jackson was worried. Nicholas Jackson is worried. Chelsea looking at selling Jackson. Gittins. Now, Gittins to me, did I think he's a £55 million player? No. Do I think there's an immense level of talent of Gittins? Yes. Gittins is an Enzo Maresca winger. He suits what Maresca wants from his wingers to a T. He struggled the last 6 months at at Dortmund, but Jamie Gittins, I keep wanting to say Jeremy because of Jeremy Frimpong, but it's Jamie Gittins. But Jamie Gittins, yeah. At the beginning of the season, he was unbelievable. Before Dortmund changed coaches, when he was playing out wide, which is what Maresca wants, holding the touchline, holding the width, he was unbelievable. Pedro Neto has been unbelievable this Club World Cup. Delap's one for the future, but he brings physicality. He can be back up to João Pedro. He can play with João Pedro. Esteval's obviously a whiz kid. Kendry Pye's coming in. I'm not sure if he's going to go out on loan, but there's a lot of talent when you look at Chelsea. But they need a few more pieces. And I think this is where it's going to change for Chelsea. This is, they've got back in the top 4. They've got back in the Champions League. They've got the money coming in. This is where Chelsea want to go. We want to now challenge City, Liverpool, and Arsenal. We want to challenge them. They want to challenge next season. So they need to get an elite level left wing or right wing. Now, Rodrigo and Garnacho have been linked. Obviously, Rodrigo's the better player. I think if they got both, it would be really good business. I think Chelsea, with obviously Gittins has come in and replaced Sancho, and then let's say Rodrigo comes in and replaces Madueke, but I still think you need one more winger because of the injuries that Neto has picked up in the past. I know Palmer can play there, I know Esteval can play there, but I think if you can just sign one elite level winger and then you see what the market opportunities are and sign Rodrigo, which you could do because I don't think he's going to Arsenal now with the Madueke deal. That's a huge one. I think you need a long-term Thiago Silva successor. Fofana's shown good signs, but he's very injury prone. Tosin has definitely improved a lot lately. I am a big fan of Levi Colwell as well. I think he's very good on the ball, very good at breaking lines. But I feel like you need an experienced leader. Now, interestingly, you've been linked to a lot of left centre-backs, not so much right centre-backs. I feel like a right centre-back would be good for Chelsea. Someone that could play left and right centre-back like Mark Gahey. But I sometimes feel like Chelsea seem to be looking more at left centre-backs than right centre-backs, which kind of surprises me a little bit. You could argue as well, maybe you need a little bit of backup at right back because Gusto sort of had a drop off and Reece James was injured. But I think backup for Cucurella, but whoever Cucurella's backup is, could play right back if Reece James is injured, would be someone that you need that could play fullback in both positions. I think Cucurella has played a lot, but he's going to need a rest because you're going to be in the Champions League next season. Do you know what I mean? You can't rest him when you're in the Conference League. So you add those to Chelsea's squad, and they would look very good. Because under Maresca, they've shown control, structure, technical dominance. The team finally has an identity. It's very technically good. And they showed some serious tactical quality in big games when key players were missing. And I think, the things Maresca's got wrong, sometimes with his subs, making subs too late, I think there's cause that Maresca's got wrong. There's room for development. Of course, there will be in his first season. But I think Maresca's shown he's pretty capable. And the Club World Cup performances have shown Chelsea are good. Do not underrate those Brazilian sides. Do not underrate the problems those Brazilian sides have caused. A lot of those sides were unbeaten before they faced Chelsea, or had been unbeaten in a long time before they faced Chelsea. So you've got to take that into account. And I think Chelsea's players are starting to show. Enzo Fernandez, since November, has shown his quality. Casado was, for me, arguably the best 6 in the world last year. He's dropping 8 out of 10 every game. He looks like a world-class 6. Cole Palmer's form's dipped, but he's good. Cucurella, he's become a key player. It's crazy to think 2 years ago you were trying to loan him out to Man United. Santos had a good game. I don't know what his future holds. João Pedro looked very good. Chelsea is showing good signs. And of course, this is the Club World Cup. It's different to the Premier League. But this is where it gets worrying, is they're adding some smart signings already. But we know once the Club World Cup finishes, Chelsea are going to go back in the market and they're going to do some business because they've got the money to do that. This money has made them go back in the market. João Pedro's already paid off his transfer fee. It's because of just progressing in the Club World Cup is crazy. if they nail this window, they can go from fourth to the contenders. Look, for me, City and Liverpool are the two favourites going into next season. There's no doubt in my mind. But if Chelsea seriously nail this window, they will be dangerous next season. They will be. So, let's talk about my final thoughts. I think PSG are the favourites. They are the favourites, but you can't sleep on Chelsea. Chelsea know how to win European trophies. Do you know what I mean? They're not Arsenal in a final. They're Chelsea. They know how to win those European trophies. They're the only team that's won all three. English sides, I think, gave PSG harder games than Real Madrid and Inter did. Villa almost got back into it. Arsenal, as Arteta said, the PSG bench said they were better. Didn't win the game though, but Liverpool took it to penalties, and of course Darwin Nunes missed that. Chelsea could shot them, and whatever happens, whether they win the Club World Cup or don't, Chelsea are dangerous. So yeah, let's have some conversations. So Rodrigo, what could be happening there? So a direct meeting to decide Rodrigo's future is going to take place next week. So after the Club World Cup, basically Real Madrid are telling Rodrigo to F off. Xabi Alonso is basically like, you're not in the plans, you can find a new club. I think Rodrigo wants to stay at Real Madrid, but then you're so not wanted that you just look silly if you stay. But then look, Barcelona tried to force Frankie de Jong out and he wouldn't go to Man United. You never know what's going to happen. But obviously, yeah, there's that sort of situation ongoing. Rodrigo's basically being forced out of Madrid. He's going to be on the market, and it kind of screams Chelsea. I think he's going to go to Chelsea or Liverpool. He's not going to. I don't think he's going to go to Arsenal now. I don't know if I think Bayern Munich are trying to get Diaz in. He's obviously not going to go to Barcelona. So something tells me Rodrigo. I don't know if I see him. I think he's going to go to the Prem. Maybe PSG going for him, but PSG need a striker, not another winger. They've got Dembele, they've got Barcola, they've got Kvaratskhelia. That would just be pure greed. So there's that whole situation. But with Rodrigo, I think he will leave Madrid. And I think Chelsea's a strong possibility, because I read that Chelsea actually offered Jadon Sancho between 180k to 200k a week to stay at Chelsea, which Sancho said no to because he's ridiculously greedy. It's crazy to think he's forced 2 loan moves out of Man United and said it's just because he wants to play football and wants freedom, to then not accepting 200k a week at Chelsea, which is more than Palmer and Casado. But if they were offering Sancho 200k a week, they've got the funds to give maybe Rodrigo somewhere close to the wages that he wants. Still, I think Chelsea dodged a bullet with Sancho. I think he was good for you guys, but I feel like you dodged a bullet. As a Man United fan, the biggest concern around Sancho was the attitude. They're refusing to apologise. I'd rather stay up late and play FIFA or PS4 than train for Man United, is what apparently, rumours. All he had to do is apologise to Ten Hag and he could have come back and played, and he was playing PS4 2 a.m. the nights before our big matches. I think Chelsea I think Chelsea not getting Sancho could be a blessing in disguise, because they can put that funds on a better player. Obviously, we've got the big news story coming in regards to Nona Madueke and Chelsea coming out here. And that is that Arsenal are close to reaching a full agreement with Chelsea for Nona Madueke. It's a deal worth 52 million. Madueke has now been given permission to go for his medical, I think, and missed the Club World Cup final. I'm surprised Chelsea didn't want to keep him for 2 more days to complete that move. So he might be a miss for the Club World Cup final. But we know that Chelsea want a centre-back. Now, these are reports that have come out over the last few months on centre-back, and Chelsea have plenty of centre-backs on the radar. Hato, Murillo, Branthwaite, Gay, and Thomas Ario. I think with Forest potentially losing Gibbs-White, I think they will lose him despite this legal thing going on with Tottenham, and losing Elanga. I think Murillo, who would be one of my top picks, is off. I think Hato is a very good option, but he's a very young player, and I do think that Chelsea could do with an experienced backline player, but Hato, I think, it has a potential as the highest ceiling. Gay would be fantastic, but apparently he wants Liverpool. Branthwaite's a very good option as well, and the thing about Branthwaite is he can play left centre-back and right centre-back and brings much needed physicality. I think he could be overpriced a little bit because he's English. But Arsenal and Chelsea have started making calls for Hato. Arsenal looking more of a mascara now, so that could open the door for Hato. And, Gay and Hato were the alternatives to Huijsen, who Chelsea wanted. And it's very clear that Chelsea want a centre-back. They went in for Huijsen. I'm very confident Chelsea will sign a centre-back this summer once the Club World Cup ends. But Chelsea looking at Hato, they're looking at Gay, they're looking at Huijsen. Something tells me they're going to go for Hato because they like young players. But also as well, Nicholas Jackson going could bring some more funds in. AC Milan having talks about Nicholas Jackson. It depends on the fee and all of that as well. But Nicholas Jackson's attracting some interest, and I think Nicholas Jackson would be quite an easy player to sell because I do think he's a pretty decent player. I think he showed that the first half of the season, but he's just dropped off a bit and he's a bit of a liability. But my big transfer suggestion for Chelsea, if you're not going to get Magnan, is Lucas Chevalier. I think he'd be a really good appointment for Chelsea. I think the fact that you were looking at Magnan says that you were looking at a goalkeeper. I think you're also looking at a centre-back because of the Hoyson links. I think Chelsea want a goalkeeper and a centre-back next. I think they will get one. I think they will get a winger. I'm confident Chelsea will get a goalkeeper, centre-back and winger this window. I think they're looking at it. It'll be interesting to see if you get Cucurella back up or anything else. But Chelsea fans, let me know your thoughts down below. Thank you for watching. See you next time. Bye.